Bless you. Mhm.
Welcome to those of you that are signing on. We're going to give it a couple of more minutes to allow other people to join us, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
They might think that it won't matter, but the schools will still see those grades, and that is important. Obviously, as we know that they can change their mind. So it's important that they're still focusing on that. They also need to be sure they're submitting any AP or IB test scores. You typically can do that pretty much automatically, so they don't have to think about it, but make sure all of those are submitted as well. It may seem pretty common sense, but also the housing deposit and the housing application, those need to be complete and sent in now, if not now, and if it's not already done, then go ahead and do that right away. And being sure that students check their email. Again, something as adults we might see is pretty common, but knowing from working with high school students, we know that they don't always check their email, and getting into that habit this summer, where they're going to be getting a lot of information from their college on things like their student ID number, where they're going to live, any other additional orientation information. So making sure they do continuously check their email, set the notifications to come up on their phone. Now, when students arrive, there are also a lot of academic differences between high school and college. So knowing how to advocate for yourself. This is something that just as an adult in general, we need to do this from time to time. This is important whether the student has an IEP or a 504 plan, they need to know how to advocate for themselves. The syllabus is going to be handed out at the beginning of the semester, every single semester. And it's really important that students don't just take this piece of paper and throw it away, right? They want to hold on to that because that's going to have all of the important dates that they need to know. So their test scores, or sorry, when their tests are coming out, when they have essays or exams, and those dates typically don't really change. So knowing what's expected of you in that class, what the professor expects of you, what you should expect from them is helpful to know. And with all the various academic differences, making sure that students are utilizing the resources on campus that they are already paying for. So utilizing the tutoring center and student services. We'll get a little deeper into those in a couple of slides. And making sure they also are encouraged to get to know their professors a little bit, interact with them. They're there to help you and support you. And you need to treat this as a professional relationship. So making sure that students know how to write a professional email. That means capitalization, grammar. They're starting the email with "Dear Professor Blank," and signing off on the email with "Thank you for your time," or "Sincerely your best," whatever signature they want to end with. But making sure they know how to write a professional email. That also will go back to checking your email. If you send your professor an email, make sure that you are keeping an eye out for their response when it comes, because they will be expecting one if you send them an email. And just be sure to attend their office hours, talk to them after class. If you can't attend their office hours, schedule a meeting with them. Again, they are great resources and they're here to help you. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about managing your schedule a little more in depth. So sometimes students get a little nervous when they see these numbers, but it's important to know how much time they're really expected to study. So 2 to 3 hours per hour in class is kind of the general rule of thumb, with the average student taking 12 to 18 credit hours per semester. At minimum, that's 24, at maximum 54. Now, this is spread out throughout the week, making sure students understand that their classes are going to be different than high school. They're not going to be in class from 8 to 3 or 7 to 2. They may be in class for an hour here, an hour there, but there's a lot more free time in between. So being sure they know how to utilize that free time to its max. So encouraging them to go to the student services office. Again, this is something they already pay for. So utilizing that resource, they can teach you note taking, how to study, time management skills, and they can separate these time management skills. You can bring in your syllabus and say, here are all the big tests I have. All right, let's work to break that down by semester, month, week, hour, even, whatever's going to be useful for that student. I just like to remind students too that obviously we are going to college for school, but there is a lot more to college than just classes and studying. So you should have enough time in that schedule to be able to go to all your classes, have time to study so that you're not pulling all-nighters, and you have time to do extracurriculars, hang out with friends, maybe get some exercise in, do other things outside of just going to classes and studying. Next, something that a lot of people don't think about are some of the legal forms that might be helpful for parents to fill out before their student goes to college. Some of these the school may have you fill out. I put this mamabear.com in the top because they do have a little package where you can get all of those for a price. They'll show you how to fill them out, all that good stuff. But having the health and financial power of attorney, obviously these are things we hope we never have to use, but just in case, it's helpful for the parent to be able to make medical or financial decisions if that's needed. And the HIPAA release as well. So after 18, parents don't have access to their child's medical records. So if they are in the room and a doctor is going to say something, they might have to step out or clarify that they're able to talk to you. Again, we hope that this isn't needed too much, but it's important to know what's expected. The FERPA release is basically, again, once students go to college, parents aren't able to see their grades or their progress in class. I personally feel like this is a choice based on you and your student and what you feel like they can handle. Now, if your student really struggles with motivation and staying on task and completing their assignments on time, it might be good for the first little bit to get this release signed so parents can check in on the student and see how they're doing. If you have a student who's really self-motivated and has no issues with you telling them, oh, don't forget you have that essay due, or even basic things like telling them when to get up on time is something that can kind of show this sort of self-reliance. So again, I think that's a little bit of a personal choice. Another thing we like to point out too is that when students, it could be during orientation or right as you're coming to school, there's going to be a lot of forms that the school is going to give to you about who can get what kind of information. So just be sure students are reading that really carefully and picking and choosing what information is really important that the parents need to know and what just isn't necessary. All right, next, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some expectations, talking about these in advance. These are actually from the Talking College card deck by Andrea Malkin-Brenner. She has a lot of great resources on her website too, so I'll just give her a little plug. She's a great person to connect with. So making sure that students and parents know what is expected in various situations. So how many times a week does the student plan to call the parent, guardian, or talk to them? And how are you going to communicate? We hear so many times, well, he didn't call me, but once a month. I didn't know what was going on. Knowing what is really expected of the student, how often they're supposed to text, call, FaceTime you is going to be helpful just to set that boundary right away in advance. And also whether you're going across town or across the country. How often are you going to come home? Is it just going to be holidays once a month? Are you expected to come home every weekend if you live close? And if you live far away, are your parents going to come to you? Or are you going to go to them? just kind of sussing some of that out. Obviously, it's going to change over time, but just getting a general idea is really helpful. I also think it's nice for students and parents to talk about what things they're most excited about and what things they might be a little bit worried about, and kind of help shift the conversation a little bit to what's important for the student. Now, students are going to be moving towards independence, moving toward adulthood. So knowing who to reach out to if they do need support, whether that's mental health help, or any other resources that they might need. Do they know who to reach out to and go to? What types of mistakes are appropriate for college students to make? Because we know they're growing, they're learning, they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But knowing what's an acceptable mistake, right? And when should the student fix their mistake, and when should the parents have to step in? And I also think it's interesting for parents and students to talk about what they think it means to be an adult. Because as we know, this answer can change over time. So knowing what your student expects, but also what you expect, can be really helpful. A few other things to consider would be any financial considerations. I feel like we could do a whole separate presentation just on this, but making sure the student understands how to track expenses, how to stick to a budget. If the bank account is in their name, do they have a credit card? Do they have a debit card? If it's a debit card, who's putting money into that account? Are they expected to work for it? Are they getting an allowance? If it's a credit card, who's going to pay the bill when it comes in? Most things are online now, but it is helpful to have a bank on or near campus that the student can get to, just in case that's needed. And I really, really encourage the student themselves to go find some reliable sources and learn about credit history and credit scores. This is something that so many students just don't understand. And parents can sometimes have preconceived notions as well. So making sure the student really understands what that means. Again, I encourage them to kind of do their own research on that a little bit, because I think it's really helpful for them to know, because things that you might not think are a big deal when you're in college can really affect in the long run, you buying a car or buying a house, as we all know. So lastly, any health considerations. So when you go to a doctor, we obviously know if it's a new doctor, you're going to have to go and tell them all of your personal health history. You're going to tell them any surgeries. You need to be able to name what maternal and paternal grandparents, parents, and siblings, any chronic illnesses that anyone has, as well as being able to list the names and dosages of the medications that the student takes. They should understand what the medication is, why they take it, what would happen if they don't, and how to get a refill. Can they just go to the campus office, or do they need to go meet with a different doctor if it's a special type of medication? And then understanding what insurance is offered. Are you getting insurance through the school, through your parents, a combination of the two? Make sure that you're doing a lot of research on this, so you know before you have to go to the doctor how you are covered.
All right. And so also kind of rerouting back to those campus resources. So when you arrive on campus, have your students check what type of services are offered. So disability services, we briefly talked about that, 504 plans, things of that nature. That's still something that is covered under disability services. However, when you get your transcripts to colleges, we don't see that necessarily. So if you have those plans and you want accommodations made for you, reach out to your disability service, locate them on campus, email them and say, hey, I had this plan in high school. Is it possible for me to get this accommodation? Most likely, yes. Or they'll give you some type of resource where you're able to use it. Short-term disability. So again, disability service does not just mean mental or physical for a long period of time, but if you broke your leg and you need a surgery and you're going to be out for school for probably like 3 or 4 weeks at a time, don't just not come to school and don't tell anybody. Make sure you reach out to your disabilities department to let them know, hey, I'm having a surgery and I won't be able to be back on campus. What accommodations can be made for me? So I feel like that's also a really huge one that some people kind of miss out on, because it happens. You can trip and fall, you can break your ankle, you can fall down the stairs. Hopefully none of that happens to any of our students, but just in case, we want to make sure that our students are still accommodated. Service pets. So I don't ever recommend anyone to just come on campus with your pet and just say it's a service dog. There's going to be some type of thing that you're going to have to turn into your disability services and say, hey, this pet is registered. Can I have it on campus? 9 times out of 10, they'll let you have it on campus. You just have to have the proper paperwork to provide to your disabilities department. So just make sure that that is also something that you have with you. Tutoring services, we talked about that earlier. So that means, hey, if you are having issues with writing or you need help, writing centers, tutoring centers like math and whatever you need help with, don't struggle alone. Tell someone, hey, I need help. Especially because you're incoming, it's not gonna, sometimes it clicks for people. For me, it didn't click. It took me a minute, but locating those tutoring services on your campus can be a huge help for your mental stress, I promise you. So just take that time to locate those. Also about stress, counseling services. So we have a lot of colleges have mental, financial, and academic. So that means that if you're going through something, again, speak up. Tell someone, hey, I'm not okay. I don't understand what's going on. I'm having a hard time managing my schedule. Can you help me? That's all things that you're paying for. So we want to make sure that you have access to them. Especially financial, college is expensive. And if you need help with, hey, how can I finance my next year? Are there scholarships, things of that nature? Speak to a counselor about what that looks like for you and how you're going to pay those bills, or how you can help get someone else to pay those bills. Academic, of course, you're always going to have an academic counselor. We all want you to make sure that you graduate on time. So if you have questions about that, again, locate those counseling services. We talked briefly about health services as well, making sure that, do you get your own insurance or are you taking the college insurance? But also knowing what type of clinics are on campus. Some colleges have a whole hospital. They have a whole clinic where you can get fully serviced by a doctor or a PA, and you can get medication, or you have colleges that just check for COVID, make sure you're okay, and then that's all they do. So you want to make sure that what type of clinics are on campus, and if you're able to get to a hospital or a doctor in case of an emergency, how far it is. Do you have to Uber? Do you have a car? Are you able to call 911? Are you able to get an ambulance? Things of that nature. So you want to make sure to locate those. And then speaking about emergencies, safety is one of our main priorities. College is a great time for you to have fun, but we want to make sure you're safe as well. So the first thing I say is never walk alone. If you can, safety in numbers. If you're going to a party, if you're going to a library, get a study partner. Say, hey, meet me outside our dorm. Let's walk together. We want to make sure that you are safe. If you're not able to walk with someone, share your location, tell someone where you're going. That way they can look at you and say, hey, this person hasn't moved from this spot. What's going on? Or I can see you walking down the street. Let me know when you get there. Just making sure you tell someone where you're going or you're with someone so that you are safe. The next one, it may sound funny, but I'm speaking from experience. Utilize your locks. Locks on your car, locks on your dorm. If you have for your room or for the bathroom, just lock your room. I used to walk out all the time, just unlock it and just kind of walk away. Just like, oh, my friends could come in and out, not knowing the danger that could happen. But lock your doors and make sure that you're, aware of your surroundings when you do lock them. So lock your doors. Locate safe zones or emergency buildings. So that's the police department on campus, the police department off campus. Excuse me. In the event of a medical emergency, a medical emergency, or maybe, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather. But a weather emergency, if there's like a hurricane or something coming, or there's a dust storm, or there's a tornado, where do you go? How do you shelter in place? Do you have to go somewhere? Do you stay inside? So making sure you locate those safe zones is a great thing for you to do. 1 second, y'all, sorry. Excuse me. All right, so know your way around campus also. So if you have a huge campus, especially if you go to a huge campus and it's dark, the last thing you want to do is wander down an alley that you don't know where you're at. So don't feel kind of a dork or anything, carry a campus map. Even if it's on your phone, you can pretend like you're on your phone. So tell them to carry a campus map on their phone or make sure they have it with them at all times, just until you get a little familiar with the area so that you understand where you're going. Charge your phone. So I think this is also one of the, but I promise you, things get busy, a lot of stuff happens, and now your phone's on 7%, and you also don't know where you're at, and your friends have left you. So just make sure that they charge their phone, or at least have a portable charger with them, or have a charger with them so they can charge their phone somewhere so that you can get in contact in the case of an emergency. So physical health, something I also did not think about when I was in college at all, but make sure you eat in general, just eat, but also make sure you eat lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snack. I want to say 10 times out of 10, if you're paying room and board, you're also having some type of meal plan as well. So you're going to have a certain amount of meal plans throughout the week, meals throughout the day. Typically, they always kind of handle breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're not able to do that, they always have some type of eatery on campus that would allow you to eat as well. So making sure you have a balanced snack or balanced breakfast so you can start off your day great is wonderful. Also great for the mental and physical health. So exercise. So I said at least 30 minutes a day, but also knowing, depending on where you are, if you can have cars on campus or cannot, you're typically going to do this just off just your mental. You're going to be able to walk to class, to and from classes. These campuses are huge and don't allow you to drive on campus, but just making sure that if you don't have that exercise that is automatic, just kind of build out a little bit out of the day. Walk around the residential hall, walk outside and get some fresh air, just for your mental and physical health, to make sure you're getting blood pumping and getting some circulation. The next is getting sleep. That's very important. You have to sleep. Please tell everyone to sleep. So we understand that you have to study. We understand that you have to be a part of these activities, but you're not going to be able to have any of this energy to do that if you don't get a proper rest. So making sure that you at least sleep, take naps. If you're tired, it's okay to say, okay, let me sleep for an hour, get back up, and then pump through it. But don't ever be sleep deprived. It's not healthy for you mentally, physically, and it's going to start also showing on your performance and your academics as well. And I know we talked about this earlier, but stay on a routine. Managing your schedule is part of that routine. Know what you want to do. I know that we have a lot of things that we want to do. Some people have to work. Some people are in organizations. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. But, write out what that looks like, or use your virtual calendar. I just started using a virtual calendar, which I should have used a long time ago. But if you have an iPad, you can do virtual calendar planning, or you can set it up on your Gmail, set up on Apple Calendar, whatever that looks like for you, and whatever works for you, make sure that you do it so you can stay on track. And then extracurricular activities. We talked about a lot of serious things in this PowerPoint, but we also want you to have fun. Go out there, get involved in sports, intramural sports, fraternities and sororities, organizations. These are not just things that look pretty and they wear nice colors and they dance nice or they stroll nice. However, though those are true, they also have opportunities for you to network. And college is one huge social network. Of course, once you graduate, you want to have a job. So this may be the opportunity for you to kind of get saturated in the fields that you're looking for. It also gives you opportunity to do community service. Some schools, you have to have community service when you graduate, community service hours in order for you to graduate. So this might be another way for you to do so. And also as a way for you to kind of step away from the academics and also create bonds, brotherhoods, sisterhoods, whatever that looks like. You'll be able to fit in socially wherever you're at as well, so you get the best of it out of your college experience. So we are finished pretty early. So if y'all have questions, We would love to answer any questions that y'all have that we didn't cover, or if you want us to elaborate more on any of the slides that we talked about already.
Yeah, obviously, this is just a quick rundown of the most important, but there's so much more that comes into the transition. So, yeah, do we have any questions? Oh, yeah, okay, we had one, it will be shared. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing because I can't see my questions.
Oh, I think there was like, will the PowerPoint be shared? I think the PowerPoint will be shared on the website, maybe.
Yes, 2 registrants and, oh, yeah.
Yes, we will share the PowerPoint on the website, and then we will also send it out to those that attended and others that registered that weren't able to join us.
Wonderful.
Well, listen, y'all did a fantastic job this evening. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us and for just sharing these thoughts of wisdom with us. And I want to thank those of you that attended tonight, and but be on the lookout for any future webinars, and y'all have a good rest of your evening.
Thank
Thank you.
you.